Well, you've been busy in this room.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like I'm really connected to it.
Cool.
I like the VHSs behind me. It's fun.
There's something special about this room, and it's fun to get together and gather in here and talk about film. Let me give you a quick intro.
Sure.
Chelsea Mertz is in the studio today. Welcome to Hot Mic.
Hello. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for doing this.
Of course.
It's been lovely to have you. You are passing through town, and were nice enough to stay with us, and it's been lovely hosting you. But you are going on to the Telluride Film Festival.
I sure am. So heading to Telluride, heading out tomorrow, but I wanted to make sure I stop by, see Vans, meet you, spend some time with people I love. So this has been great. You guys have been gracious hosts so far.
That's wonderful. And it's been really special to have you. And I've really been looking forward to meeting you too, Chelsea. So, well, since you're going on to the film festival, that is kind of a step into a common interest of ours, which is film and an appreciation for film.
Absolutely.
And it sounds like it's something that you grew up as a pastime, something you shared with your father.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
With your brothers as well?
Yeah, a bit with my younger brother. We are really close in age. So our dad shared a lot of movies with us, like to do a lot of like film education, as it were. So showing us, he had a big passion for like Humphrey Bogart. So I've seen like the back catalog of Humphrey Bogart, as well as just like newer films. He's got a passion for like certain years he thinks are like seminal for like film transitions or periods.
Okay.
So
did he have a background or an education? Was just a passion for him?
It's purely passion.
Okay.
Yeah. So
that is cool.
I'm the fortunate offspring of that, where it's been a passion for me. I'd love to do more have gone in more into it, but it was not quite my path. But I'm fortunate to have friends like yourself, like Vans, where because of your own interest in film festivals and in film, that has led you to do more and more work within that sphere, and like adjacent to that with some of the like festival management. And so I can kind of live vicariously through your experiences and see it occasionally when visiting. So
that's right. And you've had some experience, at least volunteering at Sundance. Did you work any other festivals? Well,
no, just that one. I've done music festivals.
Okay.
And so that's where I kind of had shared that with Vans going back, because I had worked Glastonbury before.
Oh, cool.
And so I'd share that I'd done a couple music festivals, and I'd done Pitchfork in Chicago.
Okay.
And she told me she was doing Sundance, and I was like, how can I wiggle in there and volunteer? So that worked out perfectly. So I was only there for 1 year.
Okay.
I was going to go a second year, and then that kind of fell through. That would have been that was going to be 2020.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I was signed out to volunteer.
Oh, tough timing on that.
Yeah.
Well, maybe sometime in the future. But as far as working one festival, that's pretty top of the mountain. That's a good one.
I'm paling in comparison to your like 10 years. So.
Well, I was very lucky. I was very fortunate in the people that I befriended early on, and it just helped me stay there for as long as I could. And okay, another transition is the film that we watched last night, and we came in here thinking, let's talk a little bit about Luc Besson, because we just watched Nikita. Not La Femme Nikita, that's what I thought the title was.
So when looking this up, I think there's actually a bit of it depended on where it was distributed and how it got attached, the name got attached to it. So it was La Femme Nikita originally, as it was debuted in France and in most of Europe, I think is part of the American market. It got renamed Nikita.
Does that just mean the girl Nikita? Would that be the
no,
French?
La Femme is the girl.
La Femme,
Nikita's just, that's
her
name. Yeah.
Right, but La Femme is just the girl.
Or the woman.
The woman.
And more the woman. So the woman Nikita.
Well, I guess this makes sense with how Leon the Professional, it's like depending on what release you're seeing, it's either Leon or the Professional or both.
Yeah, I think that happens, especially with French films a lot of times, because I think French kind of, the language relies more on these sort of names, like the woman is very common, and like how French love their articles, like the, law, le, things like that. They love those. So I think that gets attached into it. And so depending on who's translating it in the market, they're going to either like use it or they're going to be like, scrap it.
Okay.
So it's interesting because I see that across a lot of films where it will vary a lot from the French name to other Anglophone names, English names for it.
Well, that makes sense then.
Yeah.
Well, the three films that I really know Besson for is Nikita, The Professional, and The Fifth Element.
Likewise.
And you have a special connection with the Fifth Element in your fandom. You showed me a picture. You have a very legitimate Lilu costume.
Oh, 100%. I love cosplay as Lilu. I dress up as Lilu. I have my multi-pass. I have my orange pants. I've got my orange suspenders and my orange wig I keep with me. So
that's so cool.
It's both a Halloween costume and a fun fancy dress costume.
Cool.
So.
Did you make it head to toe?
Yeah, head to toe.
Yeah.
I bought the belt. I bought gold pants and drew on them to get the whole effect.
Okay.
I made my suspenders, like full like cosplay like side of things. Didn't buy anything besides like a shirt, sort of.
Okay.
That sort of it.
Okay. Now, what order? Like, what was the first Luke Besson film? Do you think you saw? Was it
the Fifth Element?
Fifth Element would have come first. Yeah.
That was just because the timing of the age I was, and that was one of those ones that I feel like it was on TV. It was like on HBO a lot, and then got moved into like maybe like a TNT or like other like network shows on like the weekends where I caught it a lot early, and then whenever it was on, it was like, I'm of course watching The Fifth Element. This movie is great. And then so it is just like so lodged in my brain where I can probably like go front to back and quote every line.
Totally. Yeah.
So good.
And it's one of those movies you could kind of start it anywhere. If it is on TV, it's like, oh, there's about 45 minutes left. Well, this is what I'm doing for the next 45 minutes.
Exactly.
Yep. We're hanging.
Yeah, and I feel so blessed to be in that last 45 minutes, regardless.
I relate to that as well with The Professional. Like, I remember that being on TV a lot, which heavily edited.
Oh, so I have to be.
Then years later, once I actually saw it on home video or I found the VHS of it, I was like, whoa, this is not the movie I remember.
It's like the radio edit of songs when you see like the network's version of movies, and then you see the full versions like, wow, they really cut some big pieces.
Yeah. We trimmed this way down to make this family friendly.
Yeah.
Well, I thought they were really great. You could kind of see the foundations being built for what he achieved with The Professional, and what he accomplished with Nikita.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he is very, very interested in the role of a woman, and The Professional being more of a girl. But like Fifth Element, Nikita, actually started with Nikita. So Nikita, Professional, like the Fifth Element. He loves that strong character who is a little out of their element in their own way, and that they have to fight against whatever it is to kind of reestablish their position, their relationship to things. He loves that sort of like, strong woman, but a strong and very beautiful, sexy woman, because although less so with The Professional. But the other two,
yes,
where I'm like, the male gaze is definitely still there, but this woman is a badass.
Yes, absolutely. I'm forgetting the actress name who plays Nikita. Anne
Padriod, I believe.
Okay. She was terrific in the role. You know who she kind of reminded me of is a young Stockard Channing.
Oh, I can kind of see that.
It was bugging me the whole movie. I was like, God, who does she remind me of? She reminds me of an actress, an American actress from the 80s. And I finally, it came to me today. I was like, oh, yeah.
Stockard Channing.
Do you see that at all?
I definitely see that, although I don't think Stockard Channing is as waif-like as Anne Padriod, if we're pronouncing that correctly.
Yeah.
She's like so like thin, and like I was getting more vibes of like bits of oh goodness, I'm gonna blank of her name, but just so like the brunette, the short woman, sort of waif-like impression, like an Audrey Hepburn, but an Audrey Hepburn mixed with Amelie.
Yeah. Okay.
So, French style, of course.
I could see that.
Yeah. But Stockard Channing, I also see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so beautifully shot. I think it's the soundtrack was great.
Yeah.
I was starting my bike ride this morning, and I was like, I wish I had the Nikita soundtrack playing right now.
My goodness, I'm gonna have to look how
available
that is.
We need to jam that tonight at dinner.
Yeah. That would be awesome, because it's got like some really heavy like synth sounds and has this sort of like not of this world sound. I feel like that's where it has in common with the Fifth Element, where it's really taking like something that's like sounds we know, but putting them in this like totally different context, different environment, and the relationship to it feels very interesting, because there's like no lyrical music. It is strictly kind of more synthy, like
it's mood.
Yes.
Yes. It's like mood and movement. Like it kind of pulls the story forward. Yeah, it's very. We should look up if it's the same. Like if he's used the same composer throughout his career or his early career.
Yeah,
I'd be interested to know.
I would be too. I think I started to look that up and then kind of got distracted because I remember looking at the composer for Nikita.
Yeah,
and I'm gonna blank on his name, but.
Well, I loved it. I mean, when I first saw The Professional, I really felt like I was like, wow, okay, this is a New York film, or it's set in New York, but it has a very European feeling to it. And even being young and just like learning about film, I could tell like this is not an American director. This is a very different vision. So it was like a French film in New York, and then Fifth Element was a French film in space, and now this was a French film in France, so that was refreshing. That was good.
Yeah.
And I'd seen it years ago, but I really only remembered classic scenes like when she first has to, on her birthday, assassinate that man and his bodyguards in the restaurant,
and then get out of Dodge.
Yeah, that was
very much a literal trial by fire. But gunfire.
So the actor Marco. The man that falls in love with her,
right?
And in the end, which I really love the ending, that she has to leave both of them. Like she can't be with one or the other. Or like if she stays with him, they'll always be able to find her. So it's heartbreaking. It's sad, but I appreciated it. I didn't need a happy ending. But Marco also, it was bugging me. Like I figured this out today, but I was like, I know him from something else.
Really?
Killing Zoe. Are you familiar with Killing Zoe?
I'm not sure that I am.
It's Eric Stoltz and Julie Delphi.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And it's a bank robbery gone wrong. But Marco is he's the main bank robber, and he kind of brings his American friend Eric Stoltz into this unwittingly. He doesn't know they're about to hold up a bank.
Interesting.
And I believe it's a Roger Avery film.
Okay.
And he co-wrote Pulp Fiction with Tarantino. So he's got kind of a wild, warped vision as well. And it's why he and Quentin worked so well together in their early career. Yeah. But anyways, I recognized him. Yeah.
Can I give you my fun Eric Stoltz fact?
I love a good Stoltz fact.
He was supposed to be the original Marty McFly in Back to the Future. Right. There's a lot of, you can find clips today of like where they shot a good like 20, 30 minutes of what would be the film now as we see, because you could see side by side scenes of him in the movie, and like no one thought it tested well, and they pulled him. Crazy to me. Like
Eric, it is crazy.
It's been a totally different like movie and franchise. Also, Eric Stoltz, I feel like after the mid '90s, like I don't know what he's doing these days. So.
Yeah.
'80s. Man.
Speaking of Pulp Fiction, I'm not sure what he did much after Pulp Fiction. Yeah, boy, it's such an iconic Michael J. Fox movie. It's hard to picture anyone else in that role.
Right. I love those sort of what ifs we've been talking about over this weekend. I love the what ifs of like if this person had played this, how would it have played? How would it have felt? How would the nostalgia factor be impacted today?
Totally. I loved our little sidebar that we had picturing an alternate cast of Lord of the Rings and using Francis Ford Coppola's cast of The Outsiders. Patrick Swayze as Aragorn.
Yeah, it would have been a full-on American Lord of the Rings.
Oh, my God. Okay, so Rob Lowe, he's got to be Legolas.
Right, he's Legolas.
I like picturing Ralph Macchio and C. Thomas Howell as Sam and Frodo.
That's right.
Like, I think Ralph Macchio, great. There we go. Frodo. There's your Frodo. Ponyboy Curtis. He'll be Samwise.
And but who is Gandalf in that version?
Oh. I don't know. Who do we say Matt Dillon would be?
Was he going to be one of the dwarves?
Maybe. Yeah.
I think he was.
I could see Emilio Estevez as Gimli.
That works.
That'd be a fun one.
That works.
This is a fun exercise to think, like, what if the casting could have been different? I think part of the conversation, or why this came up, is we were talking about the Harry Potter.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And that losing Richard Harris as Dumbledore, how sad that was, because he kind of was perfectly cast. He just wasn't long for this world at that stage.
Right, and they already knew there was going to be a few more books, so that was a bit ambitious, but you know what? They gave him the role. He deserved it. He was great for it. But yeah, the feel of Dumbledore changed.
And Ian McKellen could have made a really great Dumbledore, but coming off of Lord of the Rings, or probably in the midst of the Lord of the Rings, would they have been? Especially would productions have overlapped at all?
Because I bet the third Return of the King was probably, and like as they were going into pre-production for the third book, I bet that was pretty close. I'd be willing to bet. I'd be willing to put money on that. So yeah, I can't imagine he could have done both. But
these casting choices, they change the whole vibe of the movie. And I mean, it can be for a film that you're like, I liked everything except the casting of that one actor. Like, like I would really like to see someone else in that role, and then I would love the film. But yeah, I think it was it's probably not his quote, but David Wayne said this, and he was saying it about his films, director of Wet Hot American Summer, and one of the funniest comedy directors going. He said that 90% of his job as a director is casting. He's like, I just got to get the right people to tell my story. Yeah. So he also worked with such a loyal crew of people that came out of the state, and they just worked together for so long. I mean,
that makes sense, but it is one of those things where like there's movies I can think of where the casting doesn't feel right and the movie feels off, and like I don't have that same sort of feel for it. And it's one of those things where like I'm sure when they're in the casting room making decisions, it must feel like, I don't know. From an outsider, it seems like it's very subjective. Like, why choose this person? Is it their calendar? Is it their feel? Is it their presentation? Could they not get somebody else? Whereas, like, I don't know. I'm sure there's certain people. It's like there's such an art to this, and choosing it, which there is, and obviously, like, there's certain movies that have their cast is so magically brought together that we have that feel because that everybody clicked and synced. But other ones don't. So is it the casting?
True. And to have the foresight that Zemeckis did to say, Stoltz is not my Marty McFly.
Yeah.
How many months into the production were they? Or was it a number of weeks?
It was something like, I think they were, I know they had to spend an extra like 10 to 12 weeks. So I don't know if that was because that they'd lost that much or just reorienting everything. Yeah, it was certainly enough, but like he had the foresight to realize that this isn't working. Eric Stoltz delivering lines is like, it doesn't have that sort of like je ne sais quoi that like Michael J. Fox has, and that, like he has that special sort of like cachet to like delivering lines that like Eric Stoltz felt a little more like just a little too solid, not enough like funniness to it.
Yeah, I remember that because I've seen a couple of the clips, and like you said, you can do a side-by-side comparison. The direction has not changed in the scene. It's just, let's remove this actor, we're putting another one in, and this is still the same vision, 100%.
Yeah, and it's just the delivery of lines.
Do I have the story right that he was doing, Michael J. Fox was doing Family Ties at the time, and like the shooting schedules didn't align, and he was contractually obligated by the show, like he couldn't get out of it to go shoot a movie. But that it was something like that amount of time that passed allowed him to finish the season, and then he came and did this movie that changed his life. I mean, he'd done some movies. He'd done
small fish stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, nothing like there's
Teen
nothing
Wolf stuff, like.
Yeah, and I guess Teen Wolf would have been before that.
Yeah,
but like right around that time, like they weren't too far off.
Secret of My Success, the one where he starts off in the mailroom and he kind of lies his way up to corporate or something like that.
I don't know if I've seen that, but I'm gonna have to. That sounds great. But yeah, he was still like pretty much like he had not yet made his mark. Yeah, but that movie did it, and maybe the contracts and everything may have lined up perfectly, but it had to wait it out. Yeah, that's an interesting one.
So heading to Telluride, is there anything that's standing out as far as what you're looking forward to the most? Events, whether it's going on a hike, whether it's going to see this particular film? Is there something that's standing out right now as you're looking at the week?
It's definitely some of the films, although like full disclosure, I haven't done enough research on what all's premiering. So that's kind of my plan for tomorrow.
Cool. Nice.
Check everything out. And doing some hikes. And then two of my friends I'm going with, they've gone, with the exception of COVID year, have gone like the last 3 to 4 years. Between them, they've been very obsessed. So I'm kind of tagging along with people who like they make it their mission to go every year.
Wow,
and have
that's
for the
cool.
last several.
Okay.
So I just kind of being part of that and getting some hikes in, and I've not been to Telluride, so this will be a first time. So just kind of taking everything in. I like to just kind of go in the deep end and see where things fly. I like to go with the flow. So a lot to look forward to.
Well, the deep end seems like it's your MO. You like to get out of your comfort zone and grow as an individual.
Yeah.
It's from your stories. Can we maybe I should have done this at the top of the episode, but can we do a little bit of your background, your experience traveling the world? And
yeah. Absolutely. So I love traveling. Traveling's probably my premier passion, and traveling especially to like other countries. So like being in a foreign environment, a new country, in like a place where I don't know the language and stuff like that, I find that very interesting because it really challenges you to like figure things out, put yourself outside of your comfort zone, and also just realize, it's going to be okay, which is, I think, a big thing that a lot of people can't really, step away from. But for me, I did some traveling in college and did some like short-term study abroads, but it really started where I did Peace Corps.
Okay.
So I spent about 2.5 years in East Africa, in Malawi, and got to travel around like East Africa as part of that. Did a lot of hitchhiking. So hitchhiking from, the whole length of the country into Tanzania, across Malawi, into Zambia, Mozambique, and kind of doing
incredible.
that all. And to be honest, I was like a lone girl often hitchhiking.
Okay.
And you know what? Never had a single issue.
Well, that is great.
Lovely. I could tell
That
you
is
lots of
encouraging.
other funny stories about that, where you think it's going to go one way and then it doesn't, and then people surprise you and they're amazing.
Oh, that's great.
So yeah, I did Peace Corps, lots of experiences with that. And then after Peace Corps, I spent 4 months backpacking by myself through Eastern Europe and doing places where I worked along the way. Like I worked at a ashram in the Czech Republic for a month, and spent a lot of time with a lot of like Czech monks that were just like studying yoga and had opened and like developed this ashram. It's interesting. I worked on a cider farm in Hungary for months. Let's see. I worked at a bakery on like the German-Czech border for a month, selling pretzels during like Oktoberfest period of like the German-Austrian year. That was lovely.
Wow. How much of the language are you picking up along the way as you're staying in these places, getting these jobs, and using functional, conversational?
So I can always pick up enough that like I can say hello, how are you? Because I feel like that's important wherever you go. You should be able to say hello and how are you? And like, most of the time I'm just memorizing these terms. So like I say hello, how are you? I'm fine, and then say like I would like. Okay. And then oftentimes you can kind of insert English things, or like use your fingers to point how many you want, and then point at something.
Yes.
And like thank you. So that's typically what I start with whenever I'm traveling, because that's enough to like figure out where I'm at on the train, or if I'm getting out of like a taxi or taking a metro somewhere, I can like at least ask like I would like to go X place, or I need to go this, or where, like things like that. So it's enough to get that, and just to be like cordial enough that they don't think I'm just an idiot American that doesn't know anything.
Sure.
So it works pretty well. I remember certain phrasings. I feel like I could sell up to 10 pretzels and like count you off the change in German really well.
That's great.
So it's like 22. That's one pretzel.
Okay.
For $2.50. Yeah.
Well, to go there and work, I think, is such a different experience than just going and being there, which I guess you truly travel. Whereas some people who say like, I love to travel, it's like, okay, I like going on vacation too.
Yeah.
Like, you really are traveling, and you are completely immersing yourself into culture and people.
Precisely. And I really like to do homestays. And this is where I kind of lament that like Airbnb got so big, where now you Airbnb in other countries, which is great. You can stay with, in somebody else's home, but you're not staying with the person. Yeah. Whereas I don't know if you ever did couch surfing, but I was real big on couch surfing. Yep. Like I hosted in the US, and then when I traveled other places, I was with couch surfing, which is like someone has opened up their home and you were staying at their home with them for free. I never paid for it. I don't know if that ever changes their model. But like meeting a lot of people along the way, and some people are like, love to show you the town. And that was my experience. I stayed with a lot of people. That's like, I stayed in Bratislava with this guy who'd done a Fulbright in the US, but was from Slovakia. And he spent the weekend showing me Bratislava. And like, that was like awesome. It was just like me tagging along, where he's like, I want to show you what the city looks like from my eyes. And like, that's cool. So much different than had I gone there and like made a list and like found everything. And I'm sure I could have had a great experience, but I love seeing a city, a country, a region through somebody else's eyes that's from there. And that is always really important to me, to like stay with people that live in a place. Yeah.
So I'm going to put you on the spot with a story, but I bet you've got loads of these. So Yvon Chouinard, who is the founder of Patagonia, he defined adventure, and I really liked it. And he said, when every piece of your plan goes wrong, then the adventure begins.
Yes.
Do you have a story that pops to your mind when I say that?
Oh, immediately. Oh, yeah. It's one that was in Peace Corps, and I happened to have a friend of mine visit me, a friend that actually Vans knows. She was a friend from KU, University of Kansas, and really good friends from undergrad. And funnily enough, like both me and then her best friend from high school was also in Peace Corps in Malawi and was my site mate. Okay. So she had two people in Peace Corps Malawi, which is like rare that you have people in the same country. So she was coming to spend a couple weeks with us and see Malawi through our eyes. And so I pick her up, and like we're visiting my site, but then we're going down to meet this friend of ours. And it was going to be a bit of a travel. It was going to be basically travel for like 4 or 5, in an ideal scenario, you travel 4 to 5 hours one day, stay overnight, travel another 6 hours the next day. Okay. And it was just a series of unfortunate events where I had arranged it where a friend of mine that I worked with, so this is a Malawian colleague who had a car, was going to drive us for a short distance. And we have to wait a long time because he's getting his truck fixed. And so we wait a couple hours. And this is instead of like taking a bus, which would have been the logical thing to do, just buy a bus ticket. I was like, I have a friend. He's going to drive us. It'll be great. Well, we wait a couple hours to get him so he can get off work and drive us. And as we're driving, it's like his car is like falling apart as we're driving. Like a hubcap flies off, it's raining, and the windshield wipers aren't working anymore. So he's occasionally like wiping the front of it because it's kind of like getting so much that he can like at least get a stream going so he can see through while we're driving. And then at one point, there's just this loud, a metallic sound where it's like a giant part of the engine just clearly fell off because we just came grinding to a halt on the side of the road. And we get out, and he's trying to figure out if we can like fix it or not. We're close enough to this other town. So he like calls somebody, and he's getting it sorted out. And like, meanwhile, I'm like, you know what? Let's like go for a drink. Like, so we just go to a side, roadside bottle store, have a beer. This guy's sorting something out, and they basically put enough of a, rubber band and Jimmy rig it enough that we can keep going. Really? In the same vehicle? Same vehicle. Okay. And ingenuity. Oh man, that's one thing. Malawians are like, they can just fix anything. I have more stories about that. Just like, you don't think that car's going to move an inch, and then suddenly it's driving you halfway across the country. But we keep going, and at this point we were going could like average 40 to 50 miles per hour. Now we're going like 10 miles an hour, but it's moving. We're going forward. And then he like turns off, and he's like, I don't think I'm going to be able to take you the rest of the way. I'm going to have to stop here and overnight and get it fixed. So at this point, like, we've waited so many hours where we set off from my village in the back of a pickup truck at like 6 a.m. that morning with a, bush taxi service is basically 15 people in the bed of a pickup truck going to town.
Okay.
That's how it started. We waited for many hours to get this guy to drive us. We continued on all the issues with his car. And then at this point, it's like 9 p.m. at night. It's dark. We're on the side of a road. And we're just trying to wave down any car with lights on. And we probably spent a good 30 minutes on the side of the road until finally this car comes by and they stop. We wave them over and they stop, and it is already packed to the gills. It's like a mini bus where there's 3 people in the front. Somebody's just hovering on the center console. There's 5 people in the middle seats. There's 4 people in the back. Wow. And they still just strap our bags on top, and we kind of squeeze in like sardines in a can and go the rest of the way. And we fortunately wasn't too far at that point, but it was another 30-45 minutes like that, and then they drop us off, and we got to the destination that night. So I was like, see, this is what travel can be.
What a day.
And I'd love to say that was where it ended, and unfortunately went even worse the next day.
Oh, really? The adventure continued?
The adventure continued.
Okay.
And I'll do a long story short, because that's when it gets bodily functions stopped working.
Okay.
And I got deathly ill off food poisoning from eating beans at the market before we got on the bus. Because the second day I was like, we're just buying bus tickets. This is silly. Mm-hmm. But I ate food from a stall in the market, and it was not good. And I spent most of that ride vomiting.
Oh my God.
My poor friend. I had never at any point in my time in Peace Corps had vomited on public transport. Until that day. And she got to see the worst of travel experience. My single worst travel experience of my entire 2.5 years there happened to be when my friend was visiting.
Oh, that's brutal.
But you know what? We made it. We had a lovely time. She has great memories.
Good. Oh, good.
So, it worked out in the end.
Yes. Did you have any other experiences in your time abroad where it was you accidentally drank the water, you got ice cubes when you shouldn't? Or is your system pretty strong from all the travel that you've done? I
used to think I had kind of a sensitive stomach. I think I have an iron stomach. I rarely get sick, so I don't really have. Like I said, that's my only vomit experience I can think of in my 2 years there, and it was strictly a food poisoning thing. Sure. I don't have any other ones. I am knock on wood. I've traveled all over Africa now. It's mainly my work takes me to parts of West Africa, East Africa, South Africa, and then parts of Middle East. It's my only one. I've have a solid iron stomach, and I'm very happy about that.
That's awesome. Yeah, you kind of have to. When you're doing that, when you got that much variety.
Or you're comfortable going to the bathroom. I know some people that just soldier on.
Yeah. Well, one of the takeaways from that story is fixing the car, getting it back on the road. I wanted to just get your perspective on kind of the disposal nature to our culture, that we see things as disposable. Yeah. As instead of, no, the better thing is to stick, let's fix this thing rather than throw it out and get something new.
Yeah, I think that's very true. I have I've learned this from a family friend where he laments what he calls planned obsolescence, which he thinks is a fixture of American culture. Everything is only going to have a certain life, and you're going to throw it out, and that is by design. We're not going to design this to make it last. We're going to design this so you get 3 good years, and then you need to chuck it. And that drives me nuts. Mm-hmm. It's something where I think when I was younger, you're going for what's cheap and what you can afford as a college student living on a limited income. Yeah. But now, having gone through Peace Corps, having lived on a limited budget for many years, I am very fixated on finding good secondhand things that you can give a second life to and are really good. Or the things that I choose to invest in, I'm choosing to invest in something that I know is built to last versus not. And there's a lot of debate on what sort of things are that. I think cars by necessity for my friends and colleagues and people I knew in Malawi, you had to fix your car because getting a new car was it was unaffordable for 99% of the country to buy like a brand new car and have it shipped over. Also getting cars shipped in, period. Like you weren't getting new cars. Those were just that was not the case. So you're working off secondhand cars, secondhand parts, and people who are really good at welding.
Yeah.
And so I'm a big fan of fixing things up. I like to sew, so I fix shirts. I darn socks. I've darned my own socks.
That's cool.
At different points. I patch clothes. I fix things. Like I don't let my dog doesn't exactly like tear up toys too bad. So, but whenever he works a squeaker out of his toy, like I like cut the squeaker out, put a new squeaker in, and sew it back up and give it back to him. Like
that's fantastic.
Not buying a new one.
That's great. And I think we need more of that. I think it is unfortunate. Designed obsolescence?
Planned obsolescence. Like,
okay.
It's built into it.
It's built into it in that, this is supposed to
crap out on you.
And then you gotta buy a new one.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's so awful.
Planned obsolescence. Yeah. Well, it's a good thing to be aware of, and you're probably painfully aware of how we do it in this country. And
exactly. But there's plenty of ways to work around it. As we've talked about, I love a good thrift store. I love going to estate sales, flea markets, all of the above. Like I love things like that. It's also the idea of like you're giving a second life to things, but you also know that these were like the previously loved objects side of it, where I'm like, I wonder where this was, how this item was used before I had it.
Absolutely.
I love thinking about that, like the stories behind things.
And there's a quality to finding items, furniture in those secondhand stores where there's a reason this item is so old and it's still around is because it was well built.
Yeah.
Like IKEA, like you can maybe move that 2 or 3 times and then everything's loose and it wiggles and they're not built to last.
No, they're not. I hate IKEA furniture so much. I've furnished my whole house on like Craigslist or flea market items where it's like I found good wood products, good wood furniture that's like who knows how many people had it.
Yeah.
This thing's dating back to middle of the century. And it's a good piece that I've moved all over. I've nearly kicked the shit out of.
Yeah.
Sometimes they end up a lot heavier than your IKEA pieces.
Absolutely.
And a pain in the ass to move. But you know what? They're going to stay around.
Years ago, I was looking for an office desk, home office desk, and I found this table. And it is an absolute bear to move. But I love it because it's sturdy, it's heavy, and it's going to last forever.
Yeah.
Until I have to get rid of it.
Basically. It's like it will outlast you. You're going to end up giving it away. That's what's going to happen, and I love that.
That's true. But it will always be the first table for the podcast.
Yeah, exactly. It's already got a little love. It's got some love marks right here.
That's from somebody's bourbon. Forgot to use our lovely Santa Fe coasters.
Yeah, I'm all about the coasters. They're beautiful.
Well, let's cheers on that. A little kombucha cheers.
Yeah.
Chelsea.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
This has been wonderful, and I really hope you have just a fantastic time in Telluride.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for coming on the pod.
Thanks for having me. Lovely conversation. Thank you for
great.
hosting. You've been amazing.
Thanks, Chelsea. This has been Hot Mike. We're out.
All right.